Good afternoon, everybody, firstly. Welcome to our fifth and final employer panel session of our Science and Technology Day, running as part of the Career Services Find Your Future fortnight. My name's Helen. I'm one of the careers consultants here at Newcastle University Career Service. Delighted to be introducing a panel of 4 professionals this afternoon. Before we get started and kick off the session proper, just a few housekeeping things to be aware of. So for students who've just joined us, just be aware that this session is being recorded. If you don't wish to appear in the session recording, please just ensure that your camera is turned off. Now this is your opportunity to ask questions. So our panel will deliver a brief introduction each, and then the latter stage of the session will be your chance to ask questions. So anything that you want to know perhaps about the recruitment process, about our panelists' career history to date, do really make use of this opportunity to ask those pertinent questions today. Towards the end of the session, you'll have the opportunity to use the raise your hand function during the Q&A at the end of the session. Equally, if you think of any questions that you'd like to ask our panel during the session, please do note those down in the chat box and we'll get to them towards the end of the session as well. So as I said, the way that today's session is going to work, we have a panel of 4 professionals representing 4 different organisations who are recruiting graduates and students at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our first panelist. So each of our panelists is going to deliver about a 5-minute introduction to themselves and their organisation, and then towards the end of the session we'll open the floor for Q&A. So really hope you enjoy the session and do get thinking about any questions that you'd like to ask our panel towards the end of the session. So now I'm going to hand over to Sam Hewlett, our first panelist, who's joining us from Hewlett Packard today. So I'll stop sharing my slides and hand over to you, Sam.
Awesome. Thank you, Helen. And I will just quickly get my slides up. And can someone let me know if they can see that?
Perfect.
Amazing. Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Sam. Like Helen said, I'm an engineer here at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I've been here for about 5 years now and still here, which is probably a good sign. So I've got 5 minutes. I'm going to quickly tell you a bit about what we do, what we do in Bristol, which is where we're based, and some of the roles available both for full-time and for interns. So what do we do? It's probably a good point to start by saying that we're not the ones making your laptops and printers. We split off from that bit of HP just coming up to 6 years ago now. And as the name suggests, we're very much in the enterprise space. So the 3 pillars for us are storage, servers, and networking. So it's really kind of the 3 things that anyone needs, whether you're a startup like Dropbox or someone huge like Virgin Media. And obviously, it's not just tech companies that need us. So we partner with the Mercedes F1 team. Obviously, every race, every qualifier, every training session produces millions of data points, and we're there to help cleanly capture them and transform them and analyze them and help produce the performance improvements that keep them competitive. I don't want to say it's entirely down to us at the top of the leaderboard, but it's probably about 80% us, 20% Lewis Hamilton. Spurs, for example, so we were there from day one with building their new stadium. So all of the tech stack there is us, all of the servers, all the storage. There's something like 20,000 network points all running on our Aruba platform. So we're fully kind of built into the fabric of that stadium, which is a nice metaphor for the fact that the stuff we do, it's those key things that are part of any big business or any small business. More specifically, I'm part of HP Storage. So HP is about 60,000 people worldwide. HP Storage is about 7,000 of those. So I think that might have grown since I these slides. We have a large portfolio of products, none of which I'd expect you to have heard of, but they range from primary storage, which is where your live workloads are, secondary storage, your kind of backup tier, cloud storage, which is hopefully self-evident. We're based in Bristol in the UK, so that's where all of our engineering happens. We have a few other offices in Manchester and Bracknell for sales and other functions, but all of the fun, cool tech stuff is done here. But obviously we're a global company, so the team that I'm part of, which is Cloud Data Services, which does that cloud stuff. We have offices in Bristol, in Bangalore, in RTP in North Carolina, in San Jose in California. So we're all over the place, and there's often obviously not quite at the moment, but often an opportunity for travel. So I've got to spend some time in the North Carolina office, for example, getting to see how they live across the pond. And also really important is we're growing quite rapidly. So for context, last March, our team was 6 people. It's now 47 people, I think it is, and we hired 17 in the last year. So that's kind of where we are. I'm mostly talking about intern stuff. We do have grad roles available. We don't do specific grad roles. We just hire for entry level, and we look for people coming out of uni, and we can set their start dates to be September or whenever you like after finishing graduation. But intern hiring is my bag at the moment, and we try to keep it a relatively straightforward process. You apply with a CV, we take a look at that, we decide whether to do a phone interview. If we do a phone interview and we like you, then we'll invite you to an assessment centre, potentially virtual, potentially in person. We still haven't figured out where we are this year. Normally they've been in person. Obviously last year I had to do it over Zoom, and then that's it. If after that we like you, then we'll hopefully make you an offer. Some of the roles that we have, obviously software development is the main one. That's what you imagine software development to look like, really. We have site reliability engineering, which is kind of keeping the lights on, really. So it's making sure that all of our production environments are up and running and nothing's broken, and only good code makes it to production. And if bad code does, then make sure it doesn't last there long. We've got DevOps, which is kind of certainly the way we do it, about kind of making developers' lives easier. So that's building the tooling or the build processes, or just making it as easy as possible to write good code. We have UI and UX, which is the user interface and user experience folks. So obviously with lots of teams all working on slightly different parts of the system, you want to make sure that there's consistent visual aspect to it and consistent kind of user workflow to it. And then finally, we have quality assurance, which is just making sure that everything we do is as bulletproof as possible, and make sure that we're not making ourselves look silly by releasing bad things. But the important thing is that we all work together on that. We're not siloed. We all have people from different parts and different roles on the same team, and all working together and all able to kind of help where needed. And then I'll talk about some of the other kind of culture stuff. We have a big kind of focus on inclusion and diversity in terms of our employee resource groups. So one of the things that I'm involved in is our STEM gender diversity project. So we're doing lots of outreach work with local schools to try and get young women more interested in a tech career path or a STEM career path, which is really interesting and lots of fun. We have what are called Wellness Fridays, which we get the afternoon off on the second Friday of the month just to have some time off. We have a big focus on volunteering, so you get time as part of your working hours to do volunteering, and if you do volunteering outside of that, then the company will make a donation to match the number of hours you do. We have a big focus on charity, so we have a site charity every year. We normally raise something like £17,000 for them through kind of intern organised fundraising and stuff like that, and stuff like hack days where you get to work on whatever interests you. It doesn't have to be in any way work related, just make something that is interesting. I'll wrap this up here and I will paste this link into the Zoom chat if that's okay. Obviously, like I say, if you go to the main careers page, you can filter by UK or Bristol and find some of the entry-level roles that we've got going, and we're certainly hiring quite heavily at the moment. But if you're looking for a placement, which is hopefully some of you, we're very much looking to hire that. We've just started our hiring process for that. It's a 13-month placement. We're looking for software engineers, SREs, QA. And yeah, I'm very happy to answer any questions about that application process, about what it's like being an intern here, anything like that. Very happy to answer questions. And I think that's me.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sam. I think it was so nice to get kind of a really nice insight into HPE as well. So I think that whole Wellness Fridays thing, I mean, I think we all need to jump on that bandwagon completely. That sounds amazing. So thank you so much for that introduction, and we'll save sort of questions towards the end of the session. So thanks, Sam. So next up, we're moving to Izzy from Avanade, who's going to talk to us all about Avanade. Izzy, I'll just share my my screen with your PowerPoint, but do let me know when to scroll, when to move my slides forward.
Yep.
Here we go.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, and hi everyone, it's amazing to be here. So my name is Izzy. I lead our early talent function for Avanade for the UK and Ireland. So what does that mean? I look after all of our graduate and apprentice recruitment, our relationships with schools, universities, some of the additional sort of diversity programs that we run with charities and third-party organizations as well. I have worked for Avanade for coming up 3 years now, and I actually joined them shortly after being a graduate. I came into the role, I started in the consulting side of the business, which I'll talk to you about in a second, and transitioned into the role I'm in at the moment because I am really passionate about the sort of early talent piece that I've been working on. I just think I wanted to put that in the beginning because it's a good example of Avanade being a very, very good employer for offering a lot of opportunity. So who are we and what do we do? If we could jump onto the next slide, please. So we are one of the leading providers of innovative digital and cloud services. So what does that mean? We are a technology and IT consultancy. We are actually, and I think it's on the next slide, there's a picture of it, so we can just look at that in a minute, but we are a joint venture between Microsoft and Accenture. So we've got these sort of big rockstar parents. We're 25% owned by Microsoft and 75% by Accenture. We are very much our own organization. We're actually 50,000 strong. So we've hired a good few thousand people in the last year because we are growing a lot and opportunity in business is growing a lot in the organization based on the direction that technology and cloud solutions and sort of digital innovation is headed. We are one of Microsoft's kind of really, I suppose, gold partners, and we've been recognized as Microsoft Gold Partner for a number of years now. And what do we do? How do we operate? We are, like I said, a consultancy. So we have different areas within the workforce. So we have the kind of infrastructure teams, we've got software engineering teams, we've got, you know, a more of a kind of business analysis and tech integration team. We've got an advisory team who are, I suppose, your more I suppose what you'd think of as more like your management consultant type of approach, but still within the technology space. We've got lots of security work going on. We've got what we call the digital studio. So that's a lot of software engineers who are kind of also working alongside UX designers as well. And we work across industries for our clients. So across financial services, telecommunications. We've done a lot of work with the private sector, the public sector, lots of work with the NHS over the past couple of years during COVID, and lots of work with oil and gas in resources, and kind of helping sort of bettering towards the use of clean energy and things like that, and also work a lot in the product sector, so things that you consume, you know, maybe different accounts with supermarkets that you use, and then actually we have a large arm of what we call tech for social good, which is around projects with the Red Cross and with places like, where else are we doing some at the moment? Yeah, the British Red Cross is the biggest one I can think of at the moment. So hopefully that gives a bit of an overview. Can we just go on to the next slide, please? So what am I talking to you about now? I want to, I suppose, briefly go through what we are offering as an organisation. I've given you an overview of what we do. I think another thing to mention is that in terms of who we are, Avanade are very, very focused on being a people-focused business. We really kind of look after each other. We have 5 core values, some of which are, you know, things like we kind of work to strive for like genuine human impact with our clients. So we're using technology to sort of do good, really. We kind of deliver with excellence. Everybody counts, and that really, I think, hopefully resonates through the organization. So, you know, diversity, inclusion is really important to us. Employee well-being and strong employee networks are really important. So we've got lots of different networks around women's networks, around support groups for mental health, LGBTQ networks. We've got a network called Beyond, which is for ethnic minority members of our employee base, but really for anyone. We've got ally networks, and there's lots of things like that to get involved with. From a graduate perspective, what we do is we look to bring grads in the UK now to what we call our velocity programs. These are really great programs for basically empowering you to come on board with passion, with a drive to join the organization. And we give you 3 months of upfront training before you go out onto client projects. You're given a career advisor, but you do have this real 3 months of classroom training. And we actually partner with an external training provider on this stuff. And what that does is it means that you have that real first 3 months of kind of bedding in and feeling like you've been quite empowered and upskilled in the roles that you're going into. So in March time, this might not be applicable to many of you, we have roles open for a kind of modern cloud engineering program. However, we also have applications open for data and AI programs in September, and one for security in September as well. Everyone does have the kind of career advisor, the buddy framework, and then lots of access to Avanade's kind of culture, as I've talked about, the employee networks, and we have uncapped volunteering hours, so you can use as much time as you want, charge it back to extended corporate citizenship time. Lots of different opportunities there that we feed you to get involved with. Really strong at the moment on thinking about like the hybrid way of working. So I'm in the office today, but you know, I'll work from home tomorrow and did yesterday, and you know, it really depends what works for different people. And I think those are kind of the core things I wanted to touch on. And I suppose the other thing is just really excited to talk a little bit later maybe about the kind of some of the additional employee network and kind of diversity culture that goes around what we do at Avanade, because I think that yeah, there's a lot that we can offer from that perspective, and always also looking to hear from people like yourselves as well. So yeah, any questions, let me know. Hopefully we'll hear from some of you in any applications that you might have, or indeed just if not, we've got some good stories on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, and then the website as well, to learn a little bit more about kind of who we are and what we do, blogs and things like that from some of our employees. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks so much, Izzy. And I think it's so nice to see both from Sam and Izzy that the kind of the emphasis on diversity that is very much valued by graduate employers increasingly. And I think, you know, it's loving the name Velocity as well. Whoever came up with that, gold star. I'm a big fan of that as well. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Thanks for sharing that.
Now, thanks, Izzy. Moving on now slightly, so I'm going to pass over to Chad from MSD. So if your slides are ready, over to you, Chad. Oh, we can't hear you, Chad. Maybe here we are. Better.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for volunteering your time to come and hear from us this afternoon. My name is Chad. I work for an organisation called MSD here in the UK. I'm a graduate recruiter. I've been a graduate recruiter for about 10 years, working across a variety of industries. Currently, I work for an organisation called MSD, and I hope to, for the very, very distant future, because it's an absolutely, truly phenomenal organisation. But who are they? What do we do? And why do we do what we do? Well, we are a global biopharmaceutical company. So in the US, we are known as Merck. So it's MERCK. And then everywhere else, we're known as Merck, Sharp, and Dohme. So it's MSD, for short. Now, Merck MSD has one single goal, which is to save and improve lives through innovative medicines, vaccines, and animal health products. Here in the UK, an interesting fact is that you probably come into contact with our organisation before but hadn't known it. You may have had one of our vaccines or one of our medications. So we have a very strong partnership with the National Health Service here in the UK, and we specialise in prescription medications and vaccines. Similarly, if you have a dog or a cat, there is a very likely chance that they have one of our products inside of their bodies too. Here in the UK, we've got a number of businesses, including prescription medicines, as I mentioned, vaccines, biologic therapies, and animal health products. Now, in the UK specifically, we've been here for about 80 years. Globally, we've been around for about 130, and we have around 1,400 employees across 4 sites. Now, I'm going to speak specifically to the student and graduate opportunities that we do have and where they're primarily based, because we've got those 4 offices. One of them is up there in Scotland. We don't have any opportunities up in Scotland. Our opportunities are primarily based in London and Milton Keynes. So in London, we have our brand new headquarters in Moorgate. It's a WeWork facility. It's an absolutely phenomenal facility, and that's where a large majority of our internships are based. We also have our laboratories that are around the King's Cross area, and we're also establishing our Discovery Centre in the King's Cross area as well, which will focus on the area of neurodegeneration. We have our clinical research teams based in King's Cross as well, and then our animal health teams are based up in Milton Keynes. So that's us, what we do as an organisation. What opportunities do we offer students? We offer a plethora. So if you're not studying a sciences degree, there's still plenty of opportunities here at MSD. So all the opportunities we do offer are 12-month industrial placements. They start in the summer of every year, typically around the last Monday of July, across all areas of our business. Now, whilst some of our roles, so those that are based in laboratories specifically, may require a chemistry degree or a biology degree, the rest of our opportunities are pretty much open to any degree type. So if you do have, if you like what you heard from us today and would like to apply to one of our positions, you're more than welcome to do so if you don't come from a science background. Our graduate program is 24 months in duration. That usually starts around August or September, give or take. The start date can fluctuate from year to year. The difference with our graduate program is it is rotational. So the 12-month placement is fixed desk, so you don't move around. But the 24-month graduate program gives you the opportunity to either rotate twice, so 12 months, 2 12-month rotations, or 3 8-month rotations, just depending on the different business area. And the idea is to give you as many experiences as possible before you finish your graduate program for any career options, whether you stay at MSD or look to leave the organization. But what I would say about the culture of the organization and the employee base that we do have is most of our employees do end up staying at MSD. They really enjoy the culture at MSD. So we have an employee base of those that start at 18 to up to 70 or 80 years of age. And some of our employees have been with us for up to 30 or 40 years. So what are our opportunities? So we hire to desk specifically, and that's worth mentioning because if you go on our website, and I'll send you the link with all the opportunities listed, there is a plethora of different ones because they are very real jobs that you're going to be applying to for teams that are looking for people to join their teams and help in a very real way. So you're going to be getting involved in very real projects and delivering on meaningful projects alongside some subject matter experts. So I have bucketed them as best I can here. So effectively, we have research and development, we have marketing, finance, business insights, which sits very closely to marketing, but it's more on the data analytics side, IT, and even L&D. So no matter what your degree discipline or what you are looking to do, I do highly encourage you to consider MSD as a potential employer. Now, the deadline for all of our opportunities is the 31st of October. Now, for some of the roles, they may stay open for a little bit longer after that. I work on the premise that most of our roles will close as of next Sunday. What is that application process? It is incredibly short and intentionally so. So we have an application form. Now, it does have the functionality to extract all the data from your CV. If you've used that tech before, you know it doesn't 100% work. But even if you don't use that functionality, it takes about 10 minutes to finish the application form. There's just additional motivational questions in there, just 2 of them, and we say about 150 words to answer those questions each is perfectly fine. So just a short paragraph, just why MSD and why are you applying for this particular position? What's motivated you to join MSD? Then you'll either do a numerical test. So you do a numerical test if you're applying for either a numerically heavy role like a lab placement or finance. Alternatively, you'll do a video interview. And then it's just a final stage interview, effectively. It's panel format, around 60 to 80 minutes. Just an additional element right at the start there that you'll get details on if you are successful and get to that stage. But that's our recruitment process end to end. We've got a number of social media handles, but if you are going to follow any of them, I would highly recommend you follow our LinkedIn one, which is MSD in the UK, because all of our news is posted there. All of our job opportunities are posted there as well. So if you're looking for a one-stop shop for everything MSD, that is the place to go. And that is everything from me. Thank you very much for listening.
Great, thanks, Chad. So top tip there, and get your applications in by the end of October if you're looking for a role within MSD. And I think, you know, what Chad sort of highlighted there is actually the wealth of opportunities that are available in pharma and scientific companies like MSD. So even if you're a science student yourself, you don't necessarily have to work in an R&D lab-based role. There are roles in you know, marketing, regulatory affairs, etc., that are going to be open to you as a science graduate. So hopefully that's maybe broadened you know, your horizons a little bit about the wealth of opportunities that you'll get in MSD, as well as obviously within other scientific companies as well. Thanks, Chad. So moving on finally to our final panelist before we head over to the Q&A. So delighted to be introducing Andy Smith from Mkodo. So Andy, as and when you're ready, feel free to share your slides.
Yeah, 1 second. Can you see my
yes, that looks
slides?
Great. Thank
cool.
you.
Right, so I'm Andy Smith. I work at a company called Mkodo. I've been here about 10 years. I started off as a senior developer, and then I got promoted or demoted, depends on your point of view, to development manager, you know, shortly in. So yeah, so basically I'm still kind of a bit of a techie, really. I still get my hands dirty because that's what I enjoy, you know, getting my hands in code and whatever. But yeah, that's what I'm about, and I've got a big focus on treating software as a craft. So basically doing the best job possible, raising the bar of the industry. So that's who I am. But Mkodo. So Mkodo is a company which produces apps. So we produce apps for the lottery and gaming space and betting. So we produce iOS apps, Android apps. We also do cross-platform. We also do what we call single-page applications, which is in JavaScript. We usually call them web apps. We also do a bit of back-end stuff as well. And so we have quite a few different clients. So we've pretty much kind of sewn up the market in Canada. So we started off doing a product called Mecha Bingo. You might have heard of it. So that is a really highly rated app in the App Store. It's been around for quite a few years now, since about 2010, I think. And that's UK based. That we expanded out into Denmark. We did a site called Danske Spil, and that was a JavaScript web app, highly rated application as well. And then most recently, we moved out into Canada. So we've got apps for the East Coast of Canada, a company called Atlantic Lottery Corporation. We do British Columbia Lottery Corporation, and we've just released a new app for Ontario Lottery Corporation as well. So our apps are really, you know, very high quality, well regarded, and you know, used by an awful lot of people. So let's move on to the next slide to talk about what we kind of what we're about. So we have 2 offices. Our head office, if you will, is in London, and our other office is in Newcastle. We're trying to focus our growth on Newcastle. We've seen previously that there's an awful lot of great talent out in Newcastle University. So we're growing a team there. It's not to say we're not growing London, we are as well, but we prefer to focus in the northeast. As I say there on that slide, we've been around 20 years. So when I joined, which was about 10 years ago, I was employee number 12, and now we're over at 70. So we've grown, but we've kind of grown organically and not really quickly, because we're a very stable company. So we, like I said earlier, write apps in iOS, Android, and cross-platform. And we work across technologies such as Swift, Objective-C, Kotlin, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, C#, and Go. You know, there's an awful lot of things we do. So primarily we're kind of front-end focused. You know, some of our apps are there on that slide, you know, high quality. We also do some middleware as well. So we write things in microservices in Java, but we also use a bit of Go as well. So that's kind of pretty much what we do. Now, why would you want to work for a company such as ourselves? So good question, I've asked myself. So we really do focus on upskilling people. So as I said earlier, we treat software as a craft. Lots of people, lots of companies say, yeah, we produce the highest quality possible. And I say to that, well, they think they do, but we try to push it a little bit further. So there's companies around like ThoughtWorks which do something similar, and we kind of follow the sort of same mentality as they do. So, and how we do this, we have something called a graduate evolve scheme, which lasts a year. And the idea is you rotate around different disciplines such as software development, QA, DevOps, and a bit BA as well. To try and give you as much exposure to different things as possible. Also, we do encourage people to rotate around different technologies as well when they're actually doing development. So you might be doing iOS development, you know, one point, and they might do Android another point, or we might do some microservices stuff as well. So we do encourage, you know, cross-functional teams and encourage your growth. So I said we raise the bar. We try to raise the bar. So what we do, we have quite an in-depth training plan when you join. So the first month, we do lots of things called katas, which is basically a little programming exercise in which you pair program with somebody, and we focus on test-driven development. And test-driven development is what we kind of believe produces the best quality of code. You know, basically build a great big test suite which we can run in a few seconds and know things haven't broken. So we focus on that quite a lot. So the other things we focus on are things like solid principles, clean codes, and we give you personal development time as well. So every other week, you get a couple of hours to kind of learn new stuff. To kind of add to the training plan, what we also do as well is we give you free book as well when you join, and that's just for you to use either as a doorstop or to read, preferably to read it. But we do have a budget for you to get new training materials and watch other video courses or go to conferences as well. So we do that. But there's an awful lot of pair programming that we do, and that's to encourage trying the best practice possible. But with this training plan that we have, what we found when people eventually moved on, because people do move on, is they've come and said to me, says, Andy, I've got to thank you. And I say, well, what for? Well, it weren't for pushing us, we wouldn't have got where we are now. So what we've noticed actually is people who have moved into other jobs, they are ahead of their peers in terms of the code quality they're producing. Because lots of other companies do not focus on some of the fundamentals, I call them, which are TDD, clean code, and solid principles. But I really believe that coming to work for a company like us, Mkodo, your skills will be superior to other people in the industry, and that's my opinion, of course. But yeah, so that's why I'd like you to come work for us. So we have a few positions. So we regularly recruit for intern developers, sandwich placements, whatever you want to call it. For that year, we get you to pair program as well, do katas, and actually do some kind of real work as well. It's there for your learning and to get you to be a really good engineer. We've got a few graduate positions open as well. You'll go for the graduate evolve scheme as mentioned, and also have business analysis roles and quality engineering. So the quality engineering domain encompasses manual testing, but also automation testing as well. So we use quite a few cool technologies for automation testing, things such as Appium and Cypress, if you've ever heard of that before. So yeah, so that was a bit of a brain dump, but I hope that was informative, and any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for your time. And if you want to have a look at what we've got, feel free to visit the page there, www.mkodo.com/s/careers, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon. And that's me.
Thank you so much, Andy. And I think, you know, the kind of the trend that we're hearing this afternoon is just that emphasis on your individual personal development, the opportunity to get 2 hours regularly to really develop yourself, to enhance your skills, the opportunity to you know, do those rotations to help you maybe find out where you maybe want to specialize perhaps further down the line. It's really encouraging to hear from a careers consultant perspective that, you know, there are companies out there like yours that are providing this level of support to graduates, because ultimately the more support that students and graduates get when they join that first role, obviously the longer they will stay. And I think that's probably testament to you perhaps, Andy, the fact that you've stayed so long. Clearly it's a good sign that you feel supported, so that's great. I'll just stop sharing your slides now. So thank you to all of our panelists for those introductions there. So moving on to the latter stage of the session, now is time for Q&A. So if there's anything that you would like to ask our panelists, please do write those questions down in the chat box. Equally, if you prefer, you can use the raise hand function in Zoom to ask those questions. If you'd rather, you can unmute yourself and you'll be able to ask those questions. Perhaps I'll maybe kick off the questions while I wait for maybe some questions to appear in the chat box. Oh no, I can see we have one already from Mekla. I'll ask you to unmute yourself so you can ask a question.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, all good.
Yeah, I have a question for MSD. I've just looked through your website now, and the placement I'm interested in is in London. And I was just wondering, like, what kind of help do you provide students with relocation? Because obviously, like, I'm from Newcastle. I grew up in Newcastle. Like, I've never really like sort of ventured out of Newcastle. So, like, do you provide any support for students, especially like London's such a big city and it's quite far away, like housing, etc.?
Yeah, agree. So there's two different ways that we support. So the first is we look to connect all of our students. So say the hiring process takes place in the winter of this year and you're due to join in the summer of next year. We look to connect all the students as much as possible before they join, because what we do find is many of the students then move together and end up living in shared accommodation, etc. But we also, as part of our offering, in addition to your salary, you also get a sign-on bonus as well. So that can help with the relocation cost of moving to London as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's great. Any further questions, please do raise your hands or feel free to use the chat box. I guess maybe something that I'm really interested to kind of come back to, you know, diversity and that importance that's placed on diversity and inclusion within your organisations is definitely very apparent in your presentations. I suppose, to what extent, as maybe, you know, people that are involved in graduate recruitment, to what extent do you feel that sort of is important for your organisation when you're recruiting graduates specifically, and do you feel that there's maybe been a bit of a difference perhaps, or that graduates are really valuing employers that really promote and encourage diversity and inclusion initiatives more? Are you seeing sort of changes, if I'm making sense? Perhaps Izzy, that's maybe something that you touched upon. If I can come to you first.
Yeah, sure. I think that one of the things I would say is that diversity and inclusion is really at the core of who we are at Avanade. So we like to place it at the forefront of our hiring, but I also don't like the idea that people therefore think of that as kind of positive discrimination, because it's definitely not that. It's about making sure that we make clear to all of our candidates, whoever they are, that diversity of thought and diversity of kind of skills and approaches are really what we're looking for, and that you don't have to come to our graduate programs or to our apprenticeship programs with, you know, you don't have to say, look, I've got all of the skills that you need me to have. And that's where I think the the training piece that we have in place is really, really valuable. And I think that's one of the key pieces of feedback we get from grads, is that actually that assurance and reassurance that we give those grads, that, you know, we will hold your hands for this first, you know, 3 to 6 months and beyond. Every person at Avanade has a career advisor. Every person has a buddy throughout their career, right up throughout their career here, right up to the CEO. So I think making sure that diversity is, you know, I suppose marketed in the right way, and that the point is that you feel very included in the process, that you do feel like you can, you know, enter the program application process, even if you think, oh, I wasn't sure if this is for me, and know that your application will be looked at and read, you know, as seriously as someone who you think, oh, they're a slam dunk, yes, because, you know, they've got, you know, first on everything, and they're really, really good at I don't know, having conversations with you know, stakeholders and, you know, grown up like professors. And I think that's hopefully one of the things that we do at Avanade, make sure that we really walk the walk on that, and that you, when you came through to the process, would see that some of the first things you'll do is meet other of our graduates, meet our hiring managers and the people who will kind of lead your programs, and really realize that they're very human, and they really are there sort of walking the walk, in terms of, you know, celebrating differences. And yeah, hopefully that answered some of that in a roundabout way.
No, definitely. That was some really interesting insights. So thank you. Is there anyone else that maybe wants to add to that based on, you know, their own organisation?
Kind of, yeah, from our point of view, I think he's bang on. It's about getting that diversity of background and also providing that space to get the experience and learn the new things. So, I mean, the thing that comes to mind for me is that, obviously, again, I'm kind of coming from an intern point of view and the grad point of view, but the same with the grads as well, is that we really not throw them into the deep end, but we get them involved in, obviously, not just the coding stuff and the stuff, but the surrounding stuff. So our interns are a big part of our intern hiring. They do the phone screenings, they are sitting in on the interviews, they're helping pick their replacements. So grads get brought in to do interviews very quickly, because that experience of being closer to them, of remembering what it's like on the other side of the table and coming straight out of uni or still being at uni, I think we can occasionally lose. And so having them in the room helping us make those decisions and their opinions being valued, I think is really important, and definitely improves how we have hired grads and interns going forward.
Absolutely. I think that importance of feeling like you're being heard by your organisation as a graduate is just so important. Fantastic, thank you. Maybe a slightly different question now. So a lot of students within the university who are maybe studying final year undergraduate course in science or technology related field, the common question that we get from students is, you know, I'm thinking about maybe doing further study, perhaps a master's, PhD, etc., because I think that will make me more employable further down the line. So I guess perhaps, you know, some brief comments from all of you, if possible, just you know, how important is further study, so perhaps a master's, PhD, you know, when you're kind of screening applications from graduates. Maybe if we come to Andy perhaps first.
Yeah, cool, yeah. So reality is, I think masters is a nice to have, I think, from people, you know, it does stand out a little bit more, but what we do anyway is we have a, you know, like I said earlier, quite a rigorous training plan, so it doesn't matter so much. So if you don't have a master's or a PhD, you know, you're not going to be favoured less or more with that, I don't think, really, because like I say, we do train people quite thoroughly. So whatever you get from university is really useful, but we build on top of that knowledge. So masters for us is not essential. It does help a little bit. You do get a little bit more money as well for a master's, but it's not the all and end all thing for us.
Yeah. Okay, so some good motivation there for any undergraduates who are thinking maybe not, you know, going down that postgraduate route. Maybe Isabel, if I come to you first.
Yeah,
next.
sure.
Sorry.
I think it's a nice to have, and it's definitely something that we take seriously if we do see it. However, it's not a prerequisite. And I would say that there are one of the things that I don't want to keep coming back to it, but the purpose of the way that we've now structured our graduate hiring in terms of this velocity program, because we are looking for technical passion, does mean that actually you're going to come into an environment whereby you are working with great people in quite, very exciting projects, and you're going to be working with really cutting edge technologies. So your masters might help you with some of those core skills, but actually what you'll probably also find is that 3 months training is going to be one of the most valuable things anyway. And if you're prepared to come in and kind of work hard and actually make the most of that training, then that's going to gear you up really, really well. And the masters, like not Nick, sorry, I can't see your name. My computer's what Andy said is a sort of nice to have, I'd say. But absolutely don't feel like you can't apply or you're not good enough to apply because you don't have a master's. And what I would say is look for those types of training opportunities and check where employers do invest in you in that way, because I think it helps you kind of hit the ground running if you are someone that feels that works for you.
Thank you. And I suppose maybe Chad, just thinking perhaps about maybe some of the R&D sort of roles at MSD.
Yeah.
If students sort of start MSD, straight from their undergraduate, will that kind of impede them from, perhaps getting promotions, working as perhaps a senior scientist within R&D?
No, not at all. So that we do have PhD specific programs, and they are very niche. And they come up like once a year, and it's for like two or three students to go work in our labs on very niche projects. For those, they require a PhD for very specific reasons. But for all of our other roles, you don't require a master's. You don't even require experience for a lot of our grad roles. We have a lot of conversations with our managers regarding the roles that they are looking to hire. And we do say, look, we do want students to have the opportunity to apply for them, even if they don't have experience. Even at the graduate level. So none of them really require experience, and none of them require a master's. I would say, look, if you want to study a master's, it's entirely a personal choice from my perspective. Study one if you would like to study one, if it is of interest to you. But from my perspective, I wouldn't study one with a job at the end in mind, unless it's for a very specific reason.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Sam. I suppose the kind of message we're getting is you don't have to do a master's to get into these organisations.
Yeah, I'd absolutely echo what Andy and Chad and Izzy said there. It's certainly nice to have. Again, it's a bit of a cliche at this point, but we're hiring for intelligence, and we don't need people to know everything coming in, because obviously we're here to train you up and all that kind of stuff. Just to touch on something you mentioned earlier, if masters are nice to have, PhDs, I think don't really matter to us. I think that's like kind of Chaz is going to very much kind of your niche, which may not be our niche, but again, it's a nice signal of intelligence. You won't necessarily get more money for it or go straight into a higher position as a result. But again, we're just looking for smart people, and we have confidence that if you're smart, we can probably figure out how to get you to do the good things.
No, that's sound advice there. Thanks, Sam. Just thinking about, obviously, Izzy, you use that word technical passion. You need to be able to demonstrate that technical passion. And I think, we do have obviously some students that maybe don't study, a computing IT related degree. So what can students do to really demonstrate that technical passion during the recruitment process? So on their CV, on their covering letters, etc. How can people demonstrate that beyond, what they've done as part of the curriculum?
Definitely. One of the things that we look to do, and I think it's really important that you put out either in your CV or in a covering letter, is I've kind of said on my job specs, what do you think you could bring to this program? Why are you applying for this? What have you read the job spec and what's specific? So make sure that your application is specific to the program you're applying for, not that you've done a blanket, apply to every graduate role on Milk Round. I think that then making sure that exactly, you might not have done a STEM degree, and that's totally fine. What we look for is, can you give examples of, have you looked closely into any kind of coding courses? are you doing anything like that? Are you using, I know there's lots of different websites, there's Udemy, there's Code First Girls, there's lots and lots of different things like that. In terms of Avanade specifically, there's a huge amount of resources on Microsoft Learning, particularly with view of the Velocity programs. There's a lot around cloud engineering and the kind of data and AI and Microsoft Azure. And those are all kind of big up and coming trends. So then also I think about those trends in technology, you know, or in whichever area you're interested in, and make sure, are you connecting with people on LinkedIn? Are you following people that do jobs that in the future you might quite like to do? Are you reading blogs? Are you, you know, checking in with each other, with your professors, and, you know, just really getting a good feel for the kind of market, and then being able to make sure that you pull that out in your CV and application, but that you're able to give really tangible examples of that in your any interview that you have, I think is really important. You know, if you're going to say I'm passionate about something, why? And also what have you done to, I think, demonstrate that?
No, really, really sound advice. And I think sometimes when we perhaps probe students and graduates, we find that they are doing all of this stuff. They are doing all of this stuff in their free time, but they just haven't written it on their application.
Exactly.
And we sort of say, well, how are we, you know, how are we meant to know perhaps as employers that you've done all of that if you haven't highlighted that in your application? Just coming towards the end of the session, I'll just maybe two quick questions. So Chad, you know, a kind of a common question that we've received from science students today is, what about my lack of lab experience that I've had over the last academic year? So students feeling a little bit perhaps nervous, underconfident about applying for lab-based roles without, you know, the lab experience that they would have got last academic year. So any sort of thoughts, comments on that? Yeah,
and I think Isabel, Izzy hit the nail on the head there, is you want to passively demonstrate your effort in other areas. So if you read literature, if you attended seminars, stuff like that, you want to passively show that on your CV. But one thing I do like to say to students is that, remember, if we're hiring an intern, we're hiring someone to get experience in the first place. We're not hiring, if we wanted someone with experience, we'd just hire a contractor for that role. So there's a very good reason that we're hiring that intern. And most of the people that maybe have a little bit of lab experience, maybe at uni or not at all. Many of them go on to secure roles at our labs, because that's the reason we host the program in the first place. So I wouldn't be too self-conscious with regards to that. You want to demonstrate your effort, as Izzy said, so through your CV and your motivation through the application questions. I wouldn't be too focused on the lack of experience.
Yeah. So it's all about demonstrating that motivation. What are you doing beyond your lectures? Even if you're not able to get into the lab, there are things that you can do to proactively develop your skills, build that commercial awareness. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Before we finish, just want to ask a really, really quick final question to all of you. Let's end on a positive. What is the favourite thing about your job? And maybe if we can go to Andy first, you're top of my screen.
Okay. Well, actually, it might not be a surprise, but actually my favourite part of my job is the mentoring that we do for people. So I get an awful lot of what's what I'm trying to look for. It's very gratifying to know that people who come and work with us and gone through our training program come up and say to me, you know, thanks to you guys, my skills are ahead of everybody else, and I'm really employable. It's that, you know, it's seeing people grow, get better at their development, you know, get better at you know, dealing with other people, with the clients, and, you know, improving their social skills as well. It's all very good. It's all the mentoring for me. That's the best part about it, is seeing people develop and get better. That's what we're about, really.
That's a really interesting comment, and I think sometimes you think tech roles, I'm going to be doing the coding, I'm doing development work, and actually, you know, these skills, communication, being able to work in multidisciplinary teams, etc., mentor, coach people, are equally as important, even though they're maybe slightly less visible sometimes in the recruitment process. That was great, thank you. Sam, what's your favourite thing about your job?
Andy stole my answer, because it's mentoring.
You can say the same.
So it's that, but I think we're given a lot of scope to do stuff outside of, like you say, just kind of sitting and coding. And so, like I say, I run our intern hiring, which means I get to boss around our managers and our senior engineers to make them do interviews and herd them like cats. And I get to, you know, shape what next year's cohort looks like and get to pick the people that are interesting, get to mentor them. So just being given the space to do stuff and being given responsibility and trusted to do that, I think is really important. And that is something I think I really enjoy about our culture here.
Definitely feeling trusted and feeling valued is going to make you want to stay, hopefully, as well. Izzy, how about you?
I think for me, it sounds a bit cliche, but at Avanade, I think it is very much the people. The people are really fantastic. I work for a big corporate organization. We're 50,000 people globally. We're 1,000 in the UK and Ireland, but it also weirdly feels like a family. I think it hits a really sweet spot of a huge amount of opportunity in terms of, talks a lot about training, lots of volunteering opportunities, lots of kind of space to grow your career yourself, and be very well supported. I've never spoken to anyone who said, no, I'm actually too busy to help you right now. And I think that that's quite unusual for coming into a company when you're, a graduate and you're kind of figuring out what you want to do. I think employers, hopefully like all, and I know obviously everyone here is definitely prioritizing that because they're on this panel, for example. But I think really having identified that myself, I think that that's something that I'm really, really pleased to find at Avanade. And I think it is I think actually what it does is it really empowers you within your own role to start really kind of testing the water and understanding what it is you like and are keen to kind of pursue from a career perspective. And that's a big part of our velocity programs. One other thing I would say actually from an Avanade perspective is that we are looking at possibly hopefully launching an internship in sort of July, August time. And so if you were in your kind of second year of university summer, then that would also be something that you might be able to apply for. So just keeping an eye on the social media and the careers pages and things like that would be the way to go about that. It just kind of came to me when you were all talking about your fantastic placement and internship programs.
Thanks, Izzy. And last but not least, Chad, what's the best thing about your job?
It's first thing is people. I get to talk with 20, 30, 40 people every day. Find out about them, what makes them tick, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, and find solutions for them. Yeah, I absolutely love my job. And as someone that used to be an introvert and used to like doing data and reporting about 10 years ago, it's a drastic difference when the world of HR forces you to get good at building relationships, and it's become my forte, and I absolutely love it.
I don't think I would have predicted that, having heard from you that you were
I appreciate that
back in the day.
Thank you very much.
That's great.
That's a compliment.
I can see that we've gone slightly over, so I'll just sort of finish. Okay. So that sort of concludes the session. Before we finish, I just want to say a huge thank you to Andy, Sam, Chad and Izzy. So thanks for giving up your time this afternoon to talk to our students. Students who are still with us, I'll launch a quick feedback poll just on the Zoom. If you wouldn't mind just completing those 3 questions, just to give us some feedback about the session, how you found out about the Find Your Future event as well. Now, we know that you have maybe been a little bit quiet in the chat today, so I think as all of our speakers happy to stick around once we stop the recording if there are sort of questions that students would like to ask. Ange, I don't know if we're doing breakout rooms or if we just
we can do if anybody does want to stick around and ask any specific questions to employers that we've got.
All right, that's great. What we'll do then, we'll stop sharing, and if there are students who stick around that would like to chat to people, just remain in the Zoom, and we'll put you in a breakout room so that you can do that in a bit of a more private space.
I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to drop off.
No problem. Sorry, we've
do likewise.
I only had the hour block.
Yes, sorry, that's my fault for asking too many questions.
I will. What I'm going to do is I'll pop our some links in the chat, and potentially you could share those along with some of the slides as well.
Definitely, yeah, we can do that, Isabel. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time. I know, Sam, I heard you said you need to head off now as well. So thank you so much. It was really interesting finding out all about your organisations.
Great, thank you for having us.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much,
much.
everybody.
Thanks all. Bye.
I can see, Mekla, you have remained. I don't know if
I'm
you've
going to stop
got
the recording.